If parenting feels heavier than you thought it would, you are not weak. If it feels like you are always behind, always guilty, always one bad day away from snapping, you are not broken. And if you keep wondering why something so human suddenly feels almost impossible, there is a reason. A lot of parents are carrying a secret thought they barely say out loud. Why does this feel so much harder than it seemed for everyone before us? Not harder in the dramatic movie scene way, harder in the everyday way, the 6:47 a.m. way. The lunchbox, unread email, missed form, dirty floor, unanswered text, child meltdown, work deadline, bad sleep, low patience kind of way. The way where nothing is technically on fire, but you still feel like you are burning. And that feeling matters, because a lot of parents are not failing at parenting. They are drowning inside a version of parenting that asks for too much from too few people for too long. That is the first truth. Parenting feels harder now, not because parents care less, not because children are worse, not because families are doomed. It feels harder because modern parenting quietly became a psychological pressure cooker. You are expected to be calm, present, financially stable, emotionally available, screen-wise, trauma-informed, nutritionally responsible, academically involved, socially aware, physically healthy, endlessly patient, and deeply connected to your child at all times, while also working, while also paying bills, while also managing your own mental health, while also trying not to lose yourself completely. That is not a small ask. That is a full system overload. And the hardest part is that most of it looks normal from the outside. You can be doing all the right things and still feel terrible. You can love your kids fiercely and still fantasize about disappearing into a silent hotel room for 2 days. You can be deeply grateful and deeply exhausted at the exact same time. A lot of parents think that contradiction means something is wrong with them. It does not. It means they are human. But to understand why this feels so intense now, we have to look at what changed. And one of the biggest changes is this. Parents today are raising children in public, even when they are alone in their own house. Because now there is always a lens, always a comparison, always a headline, always another expert, always another family who seems more organized, more patient, more intentional, more fun. You open your phone for 1 second, and suddenly, somebody is making bento box masterpieces, somebody else is explaining nervous system regulation, another parent is homeschooling 3 children while running a business, and someone else is warning you that one wrong phrase could damage your child forever. That does something to the brain. It turns parenting from a relationship into a performance review. Now every decision feels loaded. Not just what works. What does it mean? What does it say about me? Will this hurt them later? Am I setting them back? Am I missing something important? Am I already too late? And when every choice is high stakes, even tiny moments start to feel dangerous. A child having a hard day used to just be a child having a hard day. Now it can feel like evidence. Evidence of your parenting. Evidence of a problem. Evidence that you are somehow getting it wrong. That is exhausting because your nervous system was not built to treat every snack, every boundary, every school refusal, every screen time argument, every friendship issue, every emotional outburst as a possible referendum on your worth as a parent. But that is exactly how many parents are living. And this pressure gets even worse because while expectations have exploded, support has shrunk. This is one of the most painful modern contradictions. Parents are being asked to do more than ever with less than ever, less family nearby, less free time, less financial breathing room, less community, less recovery, less trust, less actual help. A lot of parents are raising children in isolation while pretending they are not isolated because they can text people. But emotional survival is not the same thing as community. Seeing other people online is not the same thing as being held by other people in real life. A village is not a group chat. A village is somebody who can pick your child up, somebody who notices you are not okay, somebody who comes over without needing the house to look decent first, somebody who helps before you collapse, not after. And many parents do not have that. So what happens? Two adults, or sometimes one adult, try to carry what used to be spread across a network: childcare, income, cooking, scheduling, emotional support, homework help, medical appointments, behavior management. life admin, household maintenance, relationship repair, and the invisible labor of constantly thinking ahead. This is where so many parents break. Not at the big moments, at the accumulation, because modern parenting is not only physically tiring, it is cognitively relentless. The mental load never clocks out. You are not just remembering what happened today, you are anticipating what will happen next week. You are tracking who needs shoes, who needs forms signed, who has a rash, who is struggling socially, who has a dentist appointment, who forgot their water bottle 3 days in a row, who is spending too much time online, and whether your teenager's silence means normal moodiness or something more serious. That kind of vigilance changes you. It can make loving parents feel impatient, tender parents feel numb, competent parents feel chaotic. Not because they have changed at the core, because chronic overload distorts the way people function. And then there is the money pressure. This part matters more than people admit. Parenting feels harder when everything costs too much. When housing is expensive, childcare is expensive, food is expensive, activities are expensive, therapy is expensive, time off is expensive, rest is expensive. When the margin disappears, patience disappears faster too. Because it is hard to respond calmly when your body never feels safe. It is hard to be emotionally generous when you are doing mental math every day. It is hard to create a warm, grounded home when the outside world keeps barging in with invoices, rent, mortgage rates, school costs, and the fear that one setback could knock everything sideways. Parents are not just raising children, they are raising children inside economic stress. And kids feel that stress even when you think you are hiding it, not because you are doing anything wrong, because children live inside the emotional weather of a home. Which leads to another reason parenting feels harder now. Parents know more. And at first that sounds like a good thing. We know more about trauma, more about attachment, more about mental health, more about emotional development, more about what children need. That knowledge is valuable. It can help parents become more sensitive, more reflective, more emotionally safe than many were raised. But knowledge without support can turn into torment. Because now many parents are trying to break cycles while actively being triggered by the very children they are trying to raise well. They are trying to stay calm in moments that hit their own oldest wounds. They are trying to validate emotions they were punished for having. They are trying to teach regulation they never learned. They are trying to create safety while their own nervous system is screaming. That is heroic work, but heroic work is still exhausting work. And many parents are doing it with no space to recover. That is why burnout shows up in parenting so differently than people expect. It does not always look like collapse. Sometimes it looks like detachment, like going through the motions, like answering with one-word responses, like hiding in the bathroom for 7 minutes just to hear nothing, like feeling touched out, talked out, needed out, like resenting the sound of your own name because every time you hear it, somebody wants something. Burnout in parenting can feel especially shameful because the people exhausting you are also the people you love most. So instead of saying, "I am overloaded," parents say, "What is wrong with me?" That question is breaking a lot of good people because it points the blame in the wrong direction. Now add the digital world. This changed everything. Children do not just come home from the world anymore, the world comes home with them, into their pockets, into their bedrooms, into their friendships, into their self-worth. A teenager can be rejected at school and then relive it online all night. A child can compare themselves to hundreds of people before breakfast. A rumor can spread faster. A friendship can fracture in public. A mistake can feel permanent. Parents are now trying to protect children from threats that do not stay in one place, and that creates a new kind of vigilance. Is this app safe? Who are they talking to? What are they watching? What are they learning about themselves from strangers? Why do they seem fine and then suddenly not fine at all? And here is the brutal part. Parents are also trapped in the same digital storm. So while trying to regulate a child's screen use, they are being dysregulated by their own phones. While trying to protect a teen from comparison, they are drowning in comparison themselves. While trying to create calm, they are being hit all day by alerts, noise, outrage, news, messages, work requests, school notifications, and an endless stream of reasons to feel anxious. No nervous system thrives in that, and yet parents keep asking themselves why they feel so afraid. Because the culture rarely says the obvious thing. This is too much for one brain, too much for one household, too much for one nervous system. Then there is the emotional shift in parenting itself. Many parents today do not want obedience at any cost. They want connection. They want trust. They want to raise children who can feel, speak, think, and heal. That is a beautiful goal. But it is harder in the short term, because controlling a child and understanding a child are not the same task. Fear can create quick compliance. Connection takes time, steadiness, repair, and repetition. And when you are under pressure, the slower, healthier path can feel impossible to sustain, especially when your child is struggling too. And so many children are struggling. Anxiety is higher, sleep is worse, attention is under siege, social pressure starts earlier, identity pressure starts earlier, exposure starts earlier, the pace is faster, the noise is louder. The childhood many parents remember does not exist in the same way anymore. So parents are not only handling normal development, they are handling modern development under modern conditions. That means more emotional coaching, more conversations, more monitoring, more decisions, more worry, more second guessing. It is not imaginary. The job expanded, and here's something people do not say enough. Parenting also feels harder now because adults are lonelier, not just busier, lonelier. A parent who is never emotionally seen becomes more vulnerable to overwhelm. A parent who is always needed and rarely nurtured starts to run on fumes. A parent who has no room to be a full person begins to feel trapped, even inside a life they wanted. That does not mean they do not love their family. It means love does not cancel depletion. This is why so many parents feel guilty at the end of the day, not only because they lost patience, but because some part of them was absent, distracted, numb, irritated, not fully there, and they know it. They see the moment they brushed past a child's story, of the sigh that sounded harsher than they intended, the look on their teenager's face when they answered too fast, the bedtime they rushed, the comfort they did not have energy to give. These moments hurt because parents care. But caring does not create energy. Caring does not replace support. Caring does not undo sleep deprivation, financial strain, marital stress, sensory overload, digital fatigue, grief, hormones, or the pressure of trying to be emotionally wise in a world that keeps destabilizing you. So yes, parenting feels harder now, not because you were less capable than parents before you, because the job has become more emotionally demanding, more socially exposed, more economically strained, more mentally loaded, and more digitally invaded than many people are willing to admit. And still, there is another truth. Harder does not mean hopeless, because once you stop mislabeling your pain as personal failure, something starts to change. When a parent realizes, this is not just me, shame loosens. And when shame loosens, clarity comes back. You start to see that maybe the goal was never to become an endlessly patient machine. Maybe the goal is to become a real, repair-capable, emotionally honest human in front of your children. Maybe what children need most is not perfection. Maybe it is the experience of being loved by someone who is trying, noticing, repairing, and telling the truth. I am overwhelmed. I need a minute. I am sorry. You did not deserve that tone. We are having a hard day, not a bad life. We can start again from here. Those moments matter. They matter because children do not need parents who never crack. They need parents who show them what it looks like to come back. And maybe that is the deeper challenge of modern parenting. Not to beat the pressure, not to outrun the chaos, not to win some impossible standard, but to stay human inside it, to protect your mind where you can, to lower the bar where you should, to ask for help earlier, to stop calling yourself a bad parent for having a taxed nervous system, to remember that exhaustion can distort your thoughts, to remember that your child is not judging you with the cruelty you judge yourself, to remember that some seasons are about survival, not optimization, to remember that love can still be felt in an imperfect home, because the parents listening to this are not careless parents. Careless parents do not lie awake wondering if they are getting it wrong. Careless parents do not ache after they lose patience. Careless parents do not search for clarity because they want to do better. The fact that this hurts so much is often proof of how much love is in the room. And maybe that is what you need to hear most. You are not failing because this feels hard. It feels hard because you are carrying more than humans were meant to carry alone. So take a breath, not because everything is fixed, not because tomorrow will be easy, but because the story changes when you stop saying, I should be handling this better, and start saying, this is heavy and I deserve support too. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. And if no one has told you this lately, let this land. Your children do not need a parent who is never overwhelmed. They need a parent who keeps returning, keeps learning, keeps loving, keeps choosing connection after hard moments, keeps showing up, even imperfectly, with a heart that is still trying. That counts more than you think. So if parenting feels so much harder now, believe your own experience. It is harder. But harder does not mean you are losing. Sometimes it means you are doing one of the most demanding emotional jobs on earth in one of the most demanding times to do it. And you are still here, still caring, still trying, still loving your children through the noise. That is not failure. That is quiet courage. And for a lot of families, quiet courage is what carries them all the way home.